Okay, how we doing, folks? Rich Van Tassel with you, giving you our game picks for now week 2 of the NFL season. And of course, we are recording audio for Get Live Radio. Our first game up, the Chicago Bears, 0-1, travel to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have not played a game yet because of Hurricane Irma. Injuries for the Chicago Bears, all listed as questionable. Prince Amukamara, the cornerback again. Jordan Howard, running back. Marcus Wheaton, wide receiver. Josh Bellamy, wide receiver. Leonard Floyd, linebacker. He's a pass rushing linebacker. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Quan Alexander, linebacker. Evan Smith, center, are questionable. Devontae Bond, linebacker, is out. Chicago really had a chance last week against the Atlanta Falcons. They let it go. That's one of those games. I said it when it happened. I said it in the previews last week. That's a game that could turn around the season. That could be the difference between, a 5-11, 6-10 to an 8-8, 9-7 potential playoff team. I think they let the opportunity slip. Now they're going on the road to play a team that's been chomping at the bit in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They couldn't play week 1, so now they're playing. A lot of expectations with this team, a good team, strong team. Jameis Winston has to limit the turnovers. I'd like to see if he can take advantage of that secondary, of course, without Prince Amukamara. They played well, I thought, Chicago's secondary, that is, last week against Atlanta, who's got a much more potent passing offense than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. But you do have Mike Evans, Doug Martin. We don't know the situation with him. When he comes back, when he doesn't, what he's going to bring. It's going to be a lot on Jameis Winston. He's going to have to limit the turnovers in this game. Had Chicago won last week, I might have given them more of a chance, but especially the fact that they let that game slip away, and now they're in a situation where they're playing a Tampa Bay team that did not play last week. I think with the high expectations, Tampa Bay knows they have to get off to a good start. Again, they're chomping at the bit. They're going to come out and they're going to take advantage of the Chicago Bears, and they're going to take care of business in this game. I like 28-17 in favor of the Buccaneers. Next up, the Buffalo Bills 1-0 travel to Carolina to play the Panthers, who are also 1-0. Buffalo did not play a road game last week. Carolina did not play a home game last week. Injuries for the visiting Bills. Leonard Johnson, cornerback, questionable. Jarrell Worthy, defensive tackle, is out. For the Carolina Panthers, only one listed. It's Cole Luke, the cornerback. He is on IR, so he is not playing in this game. For Carolina, they've got to do better running the ball. They weren't great last week. They're not trying to run Cam Newton a lot. A lot of times he's the one who picks up their offense. Their leading rusher was Jonathan Stewart, only 65 yards on 18 carries. It's got to be better than that. We saw McCaffrey get a lot of handles in that game, not just carries, but also catching the ball. They want to feature him in the offense, so you saw Carolina's commitment to changing that offense from what they had in the past. So certainly commendable for that. Buffalo was able to beat a weak Jets team, but they did not do it very convincingly. Are they going to be able to run against Carolina's defense? I don't know. LaShawn McCoy had 5 yards per carry exactly, 22 carries for 110 yards. Tyrod Taylor was proficient, but again, I don't think Tyrod Taylor is good enough to lead a team. I like those corners for Carolina, Bradbury and Worley. They're going to be the difference that picks up the team this season. Carolina, I see no reason. I have high expectations for the Panthers this year that they're going to slip up against the Buffalo team, who frankly was not at all impressive against the Jets. Had they played any better team, you could take the 49ers, who are a pretty poor team but better than the Jets, and I think Buffalo would have lost last week. I don't see them having much success at all. I see Carolina committing to that offense, and certainly the longer they can keep winning, the longer things are going to go doing that, and the longer you can stay focused on keeping Cam Newton upright and healthy. And I think it should be a pretty easy victory for the Panthers. I don't see Buffalo being able to score the points. I like 27-13, a nice, easy, comfortable 2-touchdown victory for the Carolina Panthers in this game. Next up, what I think is a very tricky game, even though you wouldn't think so. The Cleveland Browns at 0-1 traveling to Baltimore to play the Ravens, who are 1-0. Cleveland did not play on the road last week. Baltimore did not play at home last week. Injuries for the visiting Browns. Only one listed. It's T.Y. McGill, a defensive tackle. He is out. For the Baltimore Ravens, Jalen Hill, cornerback, Sheldon Price, cornerback, Zadarius Smith, linebacker, are all out. Kenneth Dixon, the running back, is on IR. I was seeing something about a suspension as well. Regardless, he's not playing in this game. Tim Williams, the linebacker, is questionable. So you look at those defensive injuries and the way DeShone Kizer played last week, and a lot of injuries in the secondary as well, that also could become a factor on special teams. Look, Cleveland, for them to win games, they've got to be good on special teams as well as offense and defense, but special teams is an area where they can make up for their lack of talent in other places. And I think that can be a significant loss if those guys can't play in the secondary for Baltimore and can't play on special teams. Even if they're forced into the rotation, that means they're drawing from special teams to go in there. They might have to go both ways. So it could be interesting in that regard. DeShone Kizer was very impressive last week. I think Cleveland is at least turning things to the sense where, okay, we have a quarterback. I didn't think Kizer would be able to do it this early. I didn't really have any doubts with Kizer. I figured throwing him into such a mess may cost him his career, but he did well in week one. It was only week one. It was his first career start. Let's see what happens now that teams are out on them. I don't think that Cleveland is capable enough of winning this game against Baltimore. Again, Baltimore did not run the ball well last week. They were able to get away with it because they were playing that porous Cincinnati offense, and we saw just how bad they were on Thursday night. So this is a situation where Cleveland has a shot. I think Baltimore's still going to be able to come away. Joe Flacco will be able to make enough plays. It's not a situation with the Cleveland Browns secondary, especially now that they no longer have Joe Hayden, where forcing Joe Flacco to throw a bunch could really affect the team. So I think Baltimore's going to come away with it, but it's going to be a tricky game and could be a close game, and it wouldn't surprise me if Cleveland finds a way to get a victory in this one. I'm going with Baltimore 24-21, but keep an eye on this game. It's going to be an interesting game that may not appear so on paper. All right, the Arizona Cardinals, 0-1, 0-1 on the road, traveled to Indianapolis to play the Colts, who are 0-1. They played on the road last week. Injuries for the visiting Cardinals. Jermaine Gresham, tight end, Robert Nkemdiche, defensive tackle, are questionable. Mike Iupati, the guard, DJ Humphries, the offensive tackle, are out. Deion Buchanan, a linebacker, is doubtful. For the Indianapolis Colts, Denzel Good, offensive tackle, is on IR. Darius Butler, safety, Vontae Davis, cornerback, Antonio Morrison, linebacker, are all out. And Chester Rogers, the wide receiver, is questionable. Andrew Luck, of course, is not going in this game. He's not listed, but for him to play, I would be shocked unless they feel that they just can put him out there because you can't do much worse. Let's see who starts for the Colts between Scott Tolzien and Jacoby Brissett. I would expect Brissett to go, but who knows with the Indianapolis Colts. Actually, the indications are that Tolzien is going, so I shouldn't say expect Brissett to go. I would think that the best option would be Jacoby Brissett. For Arizona, they let that game slip away against Detroit. We discussed it, and we'll discuss this all season long when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals. This, really would be the last run with Carson Palmer. So this is a game against a very weak Indianapolis team that got hammered last week against the Rams, and they've got to be able to find a way to get a victory. I expect that Indianapolis will come out with much more force in this game because they got embarrassed last week. So it's not going to be just a cakewalk for the Arizona Cardinals, but if they want to make anything out of this season, they got to find a way to get this game, especially without Andrew Luck in the lineup. They do have some offensive line injuries. David Johnson, of course, is out. Where are they going to find the running game? They re-signed Chris Johnson. Let's see what he can bring. But you do have the offensive line injuries, so it may not be a whole lot. But the injuries in the secondary, Darius Butler, safety, and Vontae Davis, cornerback for the Colts, are going to be significant, and a linebacker is out on an already poor defense. And what's a pretty weak secondary, you're taking clearly their best cornerback out in Vontae Davis, and I would also say that Darius Butler is their best safety. So that's something to keep an eye on. If Arizona is able to get the ball downfield, look for Larry Fitzgerald to have a big game, and Carson Palmer has got to warm up in this one. Can't have the turnovers, and they've got to be able to hold on to a lead and be able to take care of Indianapolis early and not give them any life, especially if it's Brissett. You have a backup quarterback. Sometimes if you just keep them in the game long enough, they'll eventually find a way to make a play. And of course, as we said, Indianapolis is going to come out with a lot more force following that beatdown that they took at the hands of the Los Angeles Rams last week. I'm going with Arizona. I like 30-16. I don't see Indianapolis finding the end zone with any regularity or much success. Maybe one touchdown. It could come from the defense. Who knows? But it should be a fairly easy victory. Arizona 30-16 over the Indianapolis Colts. All right, so we'll be back in just a little bit. Continuing on with the game picks for Week 2 now of the 2017 NFL season. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much.